This weekly podcast inspires you to step outside of your comfort zone. My name is Zaakirah Muhammad, and I'm your host of the Living Legacy podcast. I am a cancer survivor, brand cultivating strategist, author, and world traveler. This Living Legacy podcast features women of purpose sharing stories of resilience. They are single and married. They are artists and entrepreneurs who run businesses and juggle parenthood. If you are ready to hear interviews about professionalism, entrepreneurship, travel, life, and love, you are in the right place. They will share stories of how they overcame adversity while seeing life through a different lens. Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Living Legacy podcast. Today's episode is all about retinoblastoma. So September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and my cancer is retinoblastoma, which is cancer of the eye. And the survival rate is between ages 0 and 5 years old. On average, technology has been improving so that there are more adult survivors, but because it's so rare, it's a rare opportunity to do so. And so growing up, I did not know many people that looked like me, that had the exact same cancer as me. And it would always just been my internal search to find that type of community. And thanks to the power of Facebook, we're able to have that conversation today. Abby of Abivision online, she is a retinoblastoma survivor, also a millennial, as well as a lifestyle blogger. So that's video blogger. And she's a great storyteller who is comfortable with being a source of empowerment and hope and encouragement in a world that is so used to resisting the powers of inclusion and diversity. And on her YouTube channel, she brings light to retinoblastoma, her experiences, how parents of retinoblastoma survivors can also learn and be able to detect and save a life. And also, she's a hair blogger. So she loves all things natural hair and all things lifestyle, but she's also based in London, England, UK. So she's of African descent. We'll talk about that. And this is going to be a great conversation about the the hard stuff that most people don't know about. One, about our cancer. Two, about lifestyle, how life has been when you're the only one, and what you can do to educate yourself. So, hi, Abby. How are you today? Thank you so much for being on the Living Legacy podcast.
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. I feel privileged. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's definitely a privilege and honor. I mean, I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation live and in the flesh and recorded, because tomorrow is not promised, and it's definitely not promised for us, right? It's like
Exactly.
survival rate is so low that it's like a unicorn when we see someone else like us.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So go ahead and introduce yourself for the people who have never seen you before, and are looking at you like, who is this beautiful girl, and why are we having a conversation today?
Hi, so my name's Abby. I'm actually Nigerian, so my full name is Abiola, but I go by Abby. I am a hair and lifestyle vlogger. When I decided I have a passion for creativity, for art. So that was the background to me. I wanted to be on YouTube. I wanted to share hair tips, hair ideas, fashion. I'm not very fashionable, let's be honest, but I did want to share stuff about myself, but I was very uncomfortable, and I felt very, I wouldn't say ashamed, but I felt very shy to be myself because I knew my history and I knew that maybe not everyone would accept. But anyway, I plowed through. I thought, I'm going to create this channel. But what I did was I didn't really promote it, because I was like, if not a lot of people see this, then it's okay. I'm still in my safe bubble. And something just changed in me last year, and I decided that I was going to share my story. And that's kind of where I began this retinoblastoma journey of being honest and truthful. So yes, that's why I kind of say my channel isn't just about hair, it's lifestyle as well, because I've decided to break out of hiding away and being true to me, and also kind of trying to reach out to other people like me who probably don't know there's others like us, and trying to make people feel comfortable in their own skin. I think one thing I've learned from this whole journey that I've started taking since last year is a lot of people do not feel comfortable in their own skin because of what this illness, cancer, has done to them. So that's a little bit about me.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm so glad that you are walking your purpose and sharing your story and stepping outside of your comfort zone. I think that's the biggest thing that I live by also. People tend to look to me in the sense of, how are you so fearless? How are you so happy? And I'm just like, I have, um, even though there aren't many people who look like me literally, I have been around, blessed to be around a community of other childhood cancer survivors, and we know that life is super, super short. So it's just so ironic and a perfect timing in the sense that we can have this conversation because there are people who have unfortunately lost a lot of their family members in this time. But then there's also those cancer survivors who have been fighting battles. So September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I feel like we're going to do all that we can to educate and empower and encourage today in the conversation. So I guess I'll start off with my story, and then you tell me your story, and then we'll let the listener kind of be like, "Oh, look at that!" So I have a book out called "Seeing Life Through a Different Lens." It's a survivor's memoir on overcoming adversity with resilience. My mom and I wrote the book together as it was a photograph that detected my cancer. My mom took a photo of me when I was a newborn baby. And just like most moms, they would take photographs of the baby, but she saw it not once but twice. This white glow that was in my eye when I was about 3 to 6 months old. And then by the time she was able to take me to a doctor, a pediatrician, the first initial checkup, that the doctor said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong. You're just, a new mom who's worried." And she'd never seen that before. This is before instant smartphone. This is before immediate photos, but photos where you can print it on the dot. You had to literally go wait a week for the photograph to be printed. So there were very few errors back then. So she knew something was wrong, and it took her being very persistent in the sense of what needs to happen because this is something not right. And so it was literally a photograph that detected the cancer in my eye and saved my life. And it's just ironic that 20 plus years later, I'm actually a professional photographer. So I capture the essence of humanity. And I've just been blessed to grow up not being limited, not feeling limited to who I can be, what I can do. And it stayed with me in the sense of now I'm comfortable enough. This book actually had been the healing pocket for the both of us, where we're both comfortable enough with sharing our story and encouraging others to, one, educate about retinoblastoma, which is a rare childhood eye cancer, and two, just healing, understanding how we've survived thus far and the power of prayer. So, what about you? How did your parents detect your cancer?
I think similar as well to you. It's interesting say camera saved your life because I'd never thought about it like that. But it's true. It's absolutely true. And one of the ways of actually detecting retinoblastoma is through pictures. But mine was a little bit different. Yes, I did take pictures, and yes, my parents did think, "Oh, that's weird," because everyone else would have a red eye, and I would have a whitey, creamy, not a red eye. But they didn't really pay too much attention to it. They knew nothing about retinoblastoma, babies having cancer. That was just not heard of. So they never thought anything of it. But one thing that they did start noticing was I would be crying at night. So at this point, I was maybe age 1. Yeah, I was probably about 1, and I would just cry all night. And when I would open my eyes at night, it was like a glow in the dark eye. It didn't look normal. It looked like a hazily, creamy light color. So they had a friend who came by, and I'll get to the friend in a second. They had a friend who saw them and said, "Something's not quite right. You should get her checked out," because the person saw me at night and thought that doesn't look right. Her eyes are brown normally. Why do they look a different color? So my parents went, and that's how they discovered that I had retinoblastoma. But speaking about the guy that actually told my parents to go, funnily enough, he's just had a baby girl, and she has retinoblastoma. The weirdest thing, and my mom was saying to me that if he was doing something evil, he wouldn't have got that child as well. Like, he was only trying to help, and because of his kindness, that's why the I don't know if that's true, but that's why the child was directed to him, because he would be able to pick up the signs earlier on. And lo and behold, we lost touch with them. I had never heard of them, to be honest. And they saw one of my videos a few weeks back. And his wife saw the video, and she told her husband, and the husband went, I think that's my friend's daughter. And she was like, really? And that's how we got back in touch. So anyway, long story short, a camera did, pick it up, but my parents had no clue. And I think there's a lot of parents who will also see that on a camera, but will not be able to identify that there's an issue.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so important about making sure that we implement that, the importance of when you do see something that's not right, be proactive, do something about it. If it wasn't for our parents and our parents' circle doing that, we would not be having a conversation with you. We'd not be having a conversation with each other. So typically, the most common symptom that's recognized is a white, or like you say, creamy, anything that doesn't look used to a red dot. If you happen to have too much blood in the eye, if you don't see a red dot in the photograph, or if you don't see, if you see anything like that looks white, basically that's the first thing to check it out. And second thing is most children tend to have lazy eyes. It looks what looks like a lazy eye, and most of the time that's the nerves in the eye that are already being affected, and that's very important as well.
I think also if your child is, it might not be retinoblastoma, it could be anything else, but if your child is profusely crying all the time, which was what my mum said, and apparently, it was because I was in pain all the time. So if, your child is always crying, don't just assume it's colic or, whatever else, just go and get it checked out.
Exactly. There's so many rare childhood eye cancers out there right now. So the best resource that I can give you is American Cancer Society. Um, American Cancer Society for the U.S. It's a national website that's actually doing really well with highlighting retinoblastoma. What are some resources out there where you are?
To be very honest, it's quite limited. I wouldn't say we're in the dark ages, because we have an amazing hospital called Moorfields High Hospital, which caters just to eyes, and it's known worldwide, and people come from different countries just to be able to go to the hospital. So I would say our best resource is the leaflets you see when you go to the GP. Well, we call it GP, the doctors. When you go to the doctors, the leaflets you see. But there is a charity I've actually found on Facebook called We See Hope. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they do a lot of work in England for people who either have, family members who have had retinoblastoma, or, parents who have a child with retinoblastoma. I think there is still a lot of work to do in England to raise that awareness. I mean, I go to the hospitals regularly, so I do see posters and signs. But if you're not going to the hospitals regularly, who is telling you something's not right? And I think, we do have a lot more work to do on that front.
Absolutely. Technology is improving every day, in the sense that even now, if either one of us as women were to be blessed to carry a baby, we can get that baby checked out in utero, while the baby's still inside. We already know by default, because we have that cancer, and it is genetic, unfortunately. Well, at least for bilateral, it's genetic. So there's a way to check to see if our child will inherit that gene, because by default it's a 50-50 chance. So technology is improving in that way, and it also in the sense of less invasive surgeries and less invasive checkups, because you probably attest to this, of how bright those lights are when they're trying to make sure that nothing is coming back, or see what their status is.
I think when I was about 16 or so, I saw a girl who had retinoblastoma, but she did not have an inoculation. And honestly, I was happy for her, but I was blubbering. I was like, why wasn't that me?
So it was. So what does she have instead?
She had retinoblastoma, but the technology was so good that they didn't have to remove her eye. Her vision was fine. She was perfect. It was like it never happened. And when I saw that, obviously the first instinct should have been so happy for her, which I was, but I was just like, darn it, why wasn't I born in an age where they had all this technology? Because my story may be different, you know? So technology has come a long way, I will say that.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like this is a great segue into talking about what life was like for us growing up. So I would definitely say that I've talked about it in the book that I have had plenty of experiences of being bullied. I normally wear glasses. I wear glasses. I have protective lenses. So it's a blessing that I see 20/20 in my seeing eye. So I wear glasses for protective reasons, but because most people did not know that, because I've been blessed to have such a good doctor, most people just assume that I just had a lazy eye. So what I would do instead of being used to being bullied, I would just kind of have a little humor in it. So my mom has a story of um, one day I just literally, if the prosthesis, the glass eye, the fake eye, would bother me, I just pop it right out and just be like, here, take this. I don't want it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And imagine, think of it as one of those movie characters where, yeah, the movie character with one eye and by default. So it's kind of scary, but if you think back at it, us, we can laugh at it because we're like, I know exactly.
As you're speaking, I'm seeing that you have full movement in your eyelids. I don't have that.
Well, here's the thing. We'll go into that in a second, but because the ocularis that I had, he had been fitting my eye since I was a child. So every year, obviously, I was growing very fast between the ages of like 0 to 18. So every year or sometimes twice a year, I would have a perfectly fitted eye, and because it's so custom to my eye socket, because also, for those who are watching, because you can watch it on YouTube if you are listening. Definitely watch it on YouTube. Look for Zaakirah Muhammad on YouTube if you want to watch what we're talking about. But basically, because it would perfectly fitted to the socket of the eye, like where the eye still can actually move, even though there's no actual eyeball back there. I think that's why occasionally it can move because it's perfectly adjusted. So I know you said you're gonna when you go back to your doctor, it's just a matter of making sure that you have that doctor.
I think it's a little bit different because they do custom make it, but the movement is just rarely there. I think it might be something to do with the muscle or the nerve, or maybe something was, severed. I don't know. But yeah, like I envy the movement you have.
But hey, I mean, I don't, because I know that there are people who um I think because I've been around people who have completely lost their vision, and most people get confused by that. They're like, your eyes are moving, but you can't see me. How is that? More people just don't understand what it's like to be completely blind. So, in a way, that's also been one of my insecurities growing up. Of people thought I had a lazy eye, but if I was not comfortable enough to tell them that this is actually a prosthetic eye, it's not a real eye, so they're like, wow.
Imagine not having a blinking eye. Imagine them like even more stares because they're like, what's wrong with you?
Popular question, $1 million question. So let's answer that, but because I'm sure there are some people who will be watching and still answering. So what is wrong with us? First of all, I say nothing. What would you say?
I agree. I mean, okay, I tell a lie. Up until last year, I did not agree. I did think, look, there's something wrong with you. You're not normal. You're not like all the other kids. Something needs to get sorted. But the older I've gotten, the more I've seen that it is superficial. Whether I have an eye, two eyes, no eye, it does not have anything to do with me being a human being, me being a person. But that's easier said than done. When you're getting bullied and picked on and people are staring at you and people are laughing at you and you don't feel like you get equal opportunities, it's harder to say there's nothing wrong with me. Do you understand what I mean?
Oh, I completely understand. Yeah, it's something that I even dealt with all my life growing up. Of but I dealt with it so much that also me too. When I was working, part time or 9 to 5 jobs, even though HR would know because I have to put it. Do you have any disability? Do you have cancer? Do you have any medical history that we need to know about? Yes, I would write it down. But when it comes to interacting with my own coworkers, I would normally just keep quiet. Let them gossip. Let them keep quiet. Let them talk about it. But then as I grew more comfortable in my own skin, then I started to really educate. Actually, I am actually one of because I am a woman of faith. So I'm actually one of God's closest angels because He chosen these battles specifically for me to deal with and be specifically for me to survive. Because also growing up, I would wonder why. I have experienced once I did get the blessing of meeting other retinoblastoma survivors and they did not survive. Like I knew them one summer and then the next summer they were gone. Then that, was my first taste of death outside of being told even myself that I could die any day. So experiencing that also is like I have a purpose on this earth beyond what I can comprehend. At least, when I was in high school, that I'm like, I'm not even worried about the haters anymore, really. So if I'm in that mindset where I am comparing myself, I listen to my favorite songs. I have a few songs that, just talk about, forget them haters, let them haters hate, let them do that to us. So yeah, where you are now, like how you feel also of how you've overcame that and where you are now.
Okay, that's a very good question. Like I was saying to you earlier, I had surgery at the start of this year to change my orbital implant, and I have been so self-conscious. But to actually think that I've spent almost a whole year without the correct prosthesis and I am fine is a testament to me. I'm proud of myself. I wouldn't have been able to do it last year or the year before. And the truth be told, I was depressed at the start of this year. I was miserable. I would call the hospital crying and they would say, sorry, we're closed, because of corona, you can't come in. And I would blubber and I was miserable. But testament to God, a few months later, I am confident enough to come on a podcast or to come, on camera. It took me a while to get back on my YouTube channel because I just didn't want to be seen. So it is hard. There's no easy way to say it. There are days where I wake up and I'm miserable and I think, why me? And then there are days where I wake up and I'm grateful for life and I'm grateful for breath. And I think that's just part of being human. For me, I don't think it ever gets easier, but what does change is how my perspective of the situation, how I choose to handle it. If I choose to wake up miserable in the day, yes, I will be miserable for the rest of the day. But if I choose to accept my faith and get up and rock with it, then so be it also. So I think it's definitely sugarcoating it if I sit here and say, oh, I'm confident and, everything's rosy and everything's amazing. I don't think I will ever get to that stage where I'm completely confident in myself. And we'll talk about parenting later, but that goes back to upbringing and how each of us are raised. I don't think I will ever feel completely normal or completely comfortable in my own skin, unfortunately. But as I said, it's how I choose to tackle the day that matters. And it's by being proactive and it's, reaching out and doing this podcast that makes the day not feel so bad. If I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. It's like the more you put yourself out there, the more you talk about your story. I feel like for me, my mom actually told me this right before the book was published. She's like, that you're basically about to be the unofficial advocate for retinoblastoma. And we had to take a breath, like, that means I got to tell my story a bit more. But I'm like, okay, let's do it. So it's been a
journey. You're giving us confidence and telling us there's other people like us.
Thank you. Yeah. And also continuing to educate those who aren't aware of the cancer. Like they may have seen it, they may have they think they heard about it because there is luckily there are some news coverage, especially in the states. In the U.S., there are a few hospitals areas in the states where there are hospitals that have good press coverage and they're able to get local news to cover the people who are about to go into treatment or just survive and came out of treatment. And even unfortunately, if they were blessed to have treatment but did not survive the treatment, at least when they have those press releases, the education is out there about specifically retinoblastoma for us because that's what we are. So we both have bilateral retinoblastoma. So that's what this conversation specifically is about. But please continue to do your research on the cancer. And I want to take a brief pause and just say that this episode is sponsored by Libsyn. It is a hosting website for you to be able to have your own podcast. So you definitely need to be able to make sure that your story needs to be told. Visit Libsyn, LIBSYN.com, and use promo code LEGACY to get 45 days free of hosting. Visit LIBSYN.com and use promo code LEGACY for 45 days free, and make sure you tell your own story. Yes, so coming back to the podcast, I feel like this is a great segue to talk about what it is like to deal with those levels of discrimination, right? I feel like this is, for us specifically, this is something we have actually experienced. And I've actually seen it recently even more, that there's something that's done differently because of the color of our skin. You would mind talking about your experience?
I would say England is very different. England is different from America. I couldn't sit here and say I have experienced the same sort of racism or the same sort of discrimination, because I know that America is a whole pot of stew that I don't even know how you guys deal with it. But without going too much into race,
right now, we don't.
without going too much into race and trying to keep it rounded, I would say in general, as a woman, we are disadvantaged. Full stop. Whatever color you are going to be disadvantaged against men. So I not only just have the disadvantage of being a woman, but then I have been black on top of it, and then I have been looking a bit funny, having retinoblastoma. So like 3 layers of inequality. But one thing I will say is things were definitely a lot more difficult and harder when I was growing up. As an adult, I feel like I can hold myself better. I can hide my disadvantage. I could I could do my hair in a way where you don't really notice, or I can do makeup in a way that you will not really tell what's wrong with me. So I would say as an adult, I do not believe categorically that having suffered retinoblastoma, I do not believe it affects where I can get to in life. I don't believe it affects the jobs I can obtain. I believe that my skills, my knowledge, my experience speaks for itself. But I would definitely say growing up, I wasn't just disadvantaged by the kids or the children my age, but you'd be surprised how horrible adults can be as well. Just because you don't look like the other kids, even school teachers, they will disadvantage you. They will make you feel different from others. You will go to your friend's house and their parents will treat you differently. So I think there's more to be said about adults and how they compose themselves and how they treat children. But as an adult, I am lippy, and if you come for me, I will give you a piece of my mind, and I'm not ashamed to do that, because I don't care what you think or what you think I look like. It doesn't give you the right to speak to me as any less than a human being. As long as you treat me as a human being, we're good. When you stop treating me like a human being because of the way I look, that's when we have an issue. And I am not a very confident person, but when you attack me, I do feel the right to defend myself. But I would say I cannot attest to what you have to go through in America in terms of, racism, discrimination. We have a lot of laws in place that actually are more favorable to someone with a disability or with someone with an ailment than actual normal people. I say, testament to England, we do cover a lot of equal rights and making sure people do not feel discriminated against, especially in the workplace.
Yes, and I definitely want to say I agree with a lot of what you said, because really it is universal. The struggles are universal, but it's just very different in the sense of, again, our cancer specifically, retinoblastoma, does not discriminate. People of all races from all countries and all parts of the world are affected by it. But at the same time, there is a lack, there is a huge gap in the healthcare industry in the U.S., in the insurance industry in the U.S. So I think it's just it's similar, but not similar at the same time. I've observed personally that there is a different level of treatment when it comes to what kind of income you have or don't have, and what kind of insurance you have or don't have. When it comes to just maintaining that care that you need, survivorship that's needed for us as adults now to continue to stay alive and stay healthy. So I think also I want to rewind a little bit and just mention that September is also Suicide Prevention Month, and it's also a very important subject because although I don't personally know any who have the same exact cancer that we have that have actually gone through with it, but the mental health is a huge important topic to be talked about because.
Sorry to interrupt you. I will say my mental health is probably as bad as it is because I had retinoblastoma, because of the way I was brought up. If you draw attention to it, like people did, it does make you as a person question who you are, why you're even on the planet, why you have to go through pain and agony. You know, I'm 26 years old and I still had to have another orbital implant surgery in January. The most painful experience you will feel. That's one of the most, apart from, you know, the removal, that is actually one of the most painful surgeries I think I've ever had to have. And I've had a lot in my life, but that was painful. And that damages you. You know, why me? Why do I have to go through this pain? Why do I have to be the cancer survivor? Why can't I just be normal? You know, so I think mental health with illnesses, with anyone who has lost a limb, lost an eye, lost anything, it is an important topic.
Absolutely, absolutely. And definitely make sure that you are not alone. Definitely make sure that you can find your tribe. I'm blessed to be able to say that I did find my tribe. I'm going to add you to my tribe, hold you close. You know, we found people who can truly relate to us because it's different. Sure, you can be a part of a cancer survivor network. That's great. But then you can also be a part of a retinoblastoma network. That's great. But now you got to break it down even more. By the unfortunate stereotypes of is it a woman? Is it a woman who lived in the same state as you? Is it a woman who is the same age as you or at the same exact cancer? So it's like it's almost like a marriage. You gotta find your one. Find your one of few people that you can truly confide in and talk to and relate to. So that's definitely very important as well. So I love the fact that there are a few cancer survivors, retinoblastoma cancer survivors in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And please continue to share, leave comments. Feel free to share your story because each one teaches one. We're not just talking about our story just to talk about our story. We're here to educate and also empower.
I'm also drawing comparisons. I'm looking at you, not just, with your story, but how you look as well. And I also want to mention that we all have different courses of treatments. Although it's the same cancer and it's the same thing, there is a difference. I mean, if you look at my face, I had radiotherapy and that totally stumped the growth of my left side. I grow my hair and I find that actually the right side is longer than the left. No matter if I go to the hairdressers today and they cut it evenly, in the next few days, one is longer than the other. And it's because I had radiotherapy. So my face symmetry doesn't actually match. And I think people forget that although it's the same cancer, there are different treatments depending on the stages it's gotten to. Some people have chemo. I never had chemo, but some people do. And the reaction or the effect it takes on you is totally different.
Yes, actually, that's a great point. I had radiation when I was 9 months old, so it was a very short span of the first two photographs being taken, going to the first doctor, then the second doctor, and then the enucleation, the removal of the eye. So I feel like even though I wasn't even a year old, I feel like I do have PTSD from that. So at one point, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but it's so crazy that when people would tell me in depth of their medical surgeries or whatnot, I'll be like, I'll be like, I feel like I have PTSD. I mean, so it worked out in the sense of I then had like one course in psychology. And so I was like, okay, now this I can do. Let me, talk to people, get their story, help them to be more comfortable. So yeah, I had radiation, but it's funny that you brought that up because most of the time I'm picking apart my own, features as well sometimes. And what I noticed though was because the eye that I did have surgery on, that's the side that where nothing works. So it's literally like half of my body. I feel like nothing works. So like that side of my hair does not grow as fast as the side that I see in. The side that had the surgery had more acne than the side that I can see in. And the same thing of my body parts is uneven. One side is uneven, and even going down to the woman's body parts of my eggs don't fully work on that side. So yeah, I had radiation, and I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, that's why there is such thing as secondary cancer. That's why we have to have regular checkups because even though the tumor was removed from the seeing eye, it could spread to the other eye. I actually have glaucoma. My eye pressure is actually high in my seeing eye. So, of course, we got to make sure that that stays under control too. So, it's just definitely having all kinds of treatment that can save the life, but there's always something to expect later on down the road.
Something I've got a lot of questions about, and it's around, how quickly do you change your prosthesis and how often are you meant to change it in terms of getting a brand new one, but also do you clean it daily? Do you clean it weekly? What do you do? Because a lot of people don't actually know how to manage it. And the reason I remember that point was there are countries that don't have facilities or hospitals actually catered specifically to retinoblastoma or just the eye in general. So I think that's quite important. And I know maybe there will be some people watching who have also had that question, but might be too embarrassed to ask because it is it's not the normal question you would ask. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you actually said that because I was about to leave way for those who want to ask questions, but you're right. Most people will just ask it in their mind and not ask us so we can answer it. So I'll answer your question, then I'll also answer a question that also came up on the live broadcast. So for me, fortunately and unfortunately, I was taught how to clean my prosthesis by my doctor in the instance that, I could not make it to an appointment or what have you. So I know how to clean it, which basically means I have a suction tool that takes the eye out. So I'm not actually touching it, not touching the eye, because of course the other thing is if you do touch your eye, make sure your hands are triple clean because, all those germs can go into your system and make things worse. So I have a suction cleaning, and I can alternate between having like a contact lens type of cleaner to clean it. Soak it in, lukewarm water for. It depends. I do it for an hour because I'm just so used to wearing it, and then it's a breath of fresh air when it's out, but at the same time, I'm like not used to it when it's out. So I tend to just soak it in water for a few hours and then put it in. But also what I do, there's actually a brand of soap that I trust because also I have sensitive skin too. It's also called Dr. Bronner's. So I will actually dilute it with 1 dot of that in water and just let it sit. That's how I clean it. But now that I'm older, because I'm not resizing, because I'm pretty much fit. My face is pretty much fit unless I gain a lot of weight or lose a lot more weight. My metabolism is fast. I don't expect that to happen. So I don't really see my doctor. I see my doctors annually at this point, just to also make sure there's 2 doctors, the ophthalmologist who can make sure that the glaucoma is not worse or that nothing else is worse behind the eyes, and to the ophthalmologist to make sure that there's nothing tearing the lining of the eye socket back behind. So that's what I would do. Now, what about you?
Okay, you sound very professional with your cleaning.
I don't do. But here's the thing: I was taught how to, but do I like to do it? No.
It is because I had my retinoblastoma in Nigeria, so Nigeria is a little bit haphazard, whatever. But I'm not as serious. What I do these days is I do clean it daily. But what I do is when I'm in the shower, I take it out, I wash it with the shower water. I clean my socket and I pop it back in. Don't do that. That is not the professional way to do it.
Everybody's different, though. But listen, one time I went to the doctor's office and they literally did not have a suction. Like most of the time, I'm so used to suction. I mean, I had one in my bag, and he didn't even have a suction. So he literally was like, he popped it out and took a look at it. So I mean,
I've never heard of this suction tool utensil.
Man, I feel like I need to go to the bathroom to go get it. But it literally looks like I'm gonna send you a picture. It's like I don't know how to describe it, but you literally will squeeze out all the air. It's like a little peg. You squeeze out all the air and just makes you place it like a plunger for a toilet, but it's for your eye. Yeah. Yeah.
See, this is what I'm talking about. There's so many different ways, and my eye is healthy. But you know, I might not be doing it right. Healthy.
Yeah. So I mean, everybody's different. So yeah, here's another question that actually came out. Knowing what we know now, what would we tell our parents to help us get through school? Now, for me, I had a very interesting education. I went to a Montessori school, a charter school, technical high school. So education was very important, but it was also very important that I was surrounded by resources that could help me in case I do lose my vision, in case I do lose my hearing, because a part of the radiation, I actually wear hearing aids in both ears. So my hearing, I got, a small hearing loss. So, I'm grateful that I had the resources that I needed, especially I had a speech therapist. I was not always confident with speaking. I did not always speak well either. So I had a speech therapist as well. So I'm grateful to have all the resources that the American Disability Act, ADA.org, that they provide. It's like my mom did research and again, found that network of how to make sure that I have the best education possible. Make sure that I'm sitting in the front of the classroom because I'm also a lip reader. And make sure that I can also I got to experiment with having, it's like my own personal radio where the teacher had a microphone on, but I could hear, I had a box on my desk where I could hear everything the teacher's saying. But it was fun sometimes because the teachers would forget to turn it off. So when they're on their lunch break, we're listening to all the people. But that's what helped me. I appreciated that about my mom teaching me to advocate for myself and also advocating for me for my education. But what about you?
I would say my upbringing was very different. My dad passed away when I was 5, so my mom was left to her own devices, basically. But I've said it to her so many times. I do feel like she was a helicopter mom, and she made it very obvious that I had something wrong with it. Like my mom was one of those people, you'd be casually, going somewhere and she would just like start checking your lymph nodes, start seeing your breathing, start seeing there's no tumors. She was a very like, I guess helicopter mom is the best word I can use for her. And like you were not allowed to sleep in public because my eyes don't move that well, which means people would know that something was wrong. So not allowed to sleep in public. She made me wear glasses just to cover up so no one noticed anything. And if I was a parent and I had a child like me, I would back off. I would do less because I feel she contributed to me being so self-conscious because she wasn't doing it maliciously. She wanted to protect me, but in doing that, it made me more aware that I was different. And I speak to people who don't feel different, who feel there's nothing wrong with me. Yeah, I lost my eye, but that's it. But I have never had that privilege of feeling like that because I've always been made to feel that something was wrong. So I definitely advise parents. What your mum did is amazing, giving you all the support. But not every parent can be like that. And I definitely advise that do not hover over them. Let them grow, treat them normal. Yes, there will be things that they may not be able to do, or there will be things that they can't have, but don't stop treating them as any other individual. Don't be a helicopter parent. Don't be fussing all over them. Just let them be them, and they will grow up to be independent, confident people. And I speak about this a lot on my channel because I want it to home in on the parents who are trying their best, but they're doing a bit too much because the child will grow up having issues like me. You don't want that.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned it. It is definitely from a different perspective, but it's also a very important perspective because yeah, I was kind of sort of the opposite of, in the sense of my mom did literally let me be, but at the same time, she did kind of protect me in a way, which I felt like I didn't really get my true sense of freedom until between 18 and 21. As soon as I said I'm leaving the state to go to school. So, but before that, it was a blessing in disguise as well, because sure, they, try to as much to protect me from, the haters out there and the questions, but at the same time, I still had experienced it on my own when I did my first study abroad program. When I again moved away from school, when I, had my own life. So it's definitely important to understand that you are the parent. They came through you, but they are their own person. I think that's also very important. So.
No, I was just saying that's a really good way to summarize that. You are the parent, but they're a total different entity. Let them be.
So we are coming up to the end of it, and I love to end my podcast with something fun. A two-part question. So you ready? Okay.
Oh, God.
Perfect. So the first question is, when this is all over, where do you want to travel to?
Oh, that's a good one. Greece. I love Greece. So maybe I will get a chance. I know Greece is probably a little bit safer right now, but I'm just not traveling just to be safe. I'd probably go to Greece actually. I've been thinking about it for a while. So yeah, Greece.
Yes, I'm ready to go somewhere in the States, at least drive, have a little road trip or something. So that's to start with that first. And then I've always wanted to. I think also, even though I love going to African countries, until they all open up a little bit as well, I think also I will probably look forward to going to the states that are, they're different countries, but they were acquired by the U.S., so we don't need a passport to go there. So I might, do something like that. But of course, it's risky. We're high risk as well. So I'm like, I would dream, I would stare at my Pinterest board, I would watch other people's YouTube videos, but until I know that I can take all Plan B, A, B, and C precautions, yeah.
I have been saying I'm one of those people. If I catch it, I'm in trouble. So
So even though like I'm blessed to have I feel like I do have a strong immune system. I don't get sick like at all. But at the same time, I still need to be, safe. It's also very important to make sure that you're with in a country that has resources for cancer. Like actually, you mentioned We See Hope, which is literally we and the letter C and hope. For those who want to search it, we'll also put it in the show notes in the comments. All the resources that we mentioned, if you want to check it out and educate yourself. But also, they are based in Kenya too. So they have a Kenya. They're in the U.S. They're in London. They have in Kenya as well. So also, it's important to just going to places that have decent medical care. Because I've even, thought about, where could I just be part time? Because I'm a water baby. I love beaches. So I'm like, where can I be that part time that's not so cold? Here's my other question I wanted to ask you. What is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be?
oh, that's a hard question. I'm definitely one of those people that thinks they're going to change the world. I believe I'm alive to make a change. And I hope that one day I will be able to change someone. It might not be millions of people's lives, but as long as I can touch one person and tell them it's going to be okay and this is not the end, cancer is not the end. You have the ability within you to fight. For me, that's good enough. But my ultimate goal is to open up a clinic, an eye clinic, throughout Africa, so in different parts of Africa, most importantly Nigeria, because that's where I grew up, that's where I had the doctors that actually saved my life. um, I want to do that for people who don't have the cost, because I remember as a child we would go looking for prosthesis, and it's not like how you have it now where it's tailor-made to you. You would just find a box of eyes literally, and they would file it down to suit you. And I will never forget, there was a time when my dad had just passed away. My mom barely had any money. We went and we got one, and it cut the inside of my eye because they had filed it so badly. And that is the extent of poverty in Africa. And that was lucky. We were the rich ones. We were going around. I mean, back then there was no such thing as tailor-made. You just go around and you find the best ones. But there are, and that was for us with money, there are people who who don't have that. And worst of all, there are people who can't even get the surgery to get rid of the cancer, and they end up dying because they just don't have the funds to save their child's life. So for me, that is my end goal. I'm not here to make money. I'm not here to be rich and famous. Whatever I make, I want to make sure that we are giving children a chance, because I am a testament, you are a testament to the chance we have been given of life. And it's very sad and unfair that there are kids out there that are not getting that opportunity, that are not, sorry, just making me very emotional, that are not getting that opportunity to be themselves, to grow, to get past the age of 2. It's very heartbreaking. And the long goal, I guess, long story short, is to be able to facilitate clinics all over Africa and possibly spread it out to other parts of the world, where I can actually fly out surgeons from America, from UK, to actually carry out the surgeries and hopefully have the funds to be able to, pay for that, because it will be a charity. So long story short, that is my end goal. That is the legacy I want to live.
So here's actually a comment that may actually remind you that you are on the right path. Now, this person is in the country of the Gambia. Last year, he had a patient, I think he's a nurse, with retinoblastoma. A 5-year-old girl couldn't make it to the surgery, probably because of funds, probably because of, nope, you're on the right path. You're on the right path. And I think this is a great connection that we have, because one, I have a huge love for Africa. I've been blessed to go to 4 countries in Africa, and I can't wait to continue to go back for more. And my purpose really is also on the photographer side, like showing kids how to take a photograph, right? Document their own lives, maybe even save a life. If someone has already taken a photograph and detect cancer in somebody's eye, they already have, done a good deed. So there's actually a song that I love, and maybe you all can look it up. But there's a song called "A Million Lives," and it's by an artist called Jake Miller. And the part of the chorus that I just love so much. He actually grew up not far. He's the same age as me, and he actually grew up not far away from me in South Florida. And the chorus goes, "I haven't made a million, but I've touched a million lives." Right? So I mean, now the song was almost 10 years old now, but the lyrics are so relevant. So yeah, I think we're on the right path. Both of us are on the right path, and I definitely applaud you for keeping going. And these are great reminders, because it's not easy. It's not going to be. It's not meant to be easy. So thank you for being you.
No, thank you. Honestly, it's been a pleasure to meet you. It's been a pleasure to meet
you, right? Because we connected. It's been like a full circle. I realized it's been a full circle. We connected in a Facebook group. Then somehow we added each other on Facebook. And then my mom was like, "Look at her YouTube," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm following you on YouTube." And I commented, and then we DM'd on Instagram, and now we're here. So.
We're here. So I hope everyone else out there will find a buddy, find a friend, who's gone through the same thing, because only we understand what we've gone through, and only we can explain it to each other and really understand. So it's been a pleasure.
So I think this is a great way to kind of merge into also where people can find you on your YouTube, on social media. If you want to go ahead and just kind of say what those are.
Yeah, okay. So I have my channel where I share lifestyle, not just retinoblastoma, but other things as well. I've actually decided to go in a new direction, where I will be interviewing other retinoblastoma survivors, retinoblastoma parents of retinoblastomas, cousins, sisters, brothers, aunties, you name it, friend. I just want everyone to get as much information and as much perspective as possible. So that is coming up on my channel, and my channel name is Abivision. It's literally Abi, ABI, and Vision, all one word. So stay tuned for all of that. And then you can also chat to me on Instagram. I know YouTube is not, you don't really have that privacy to speak in private. You have to leave comments. So if you do want to speak to me in private, my Instagram is Love Live Abby. DM me. We can start a conversation there, because that's essentially how we've all got to get introduced, by speaking on social media. So I definitely encourage you, if you have any questions, if you want to know more, if you want to be on my channel, and if you want to discuss how you're feeling, either as a parent or as a child or as a brother, sister, auntie, uncle, you name it, please contact me. I would love to hear from you.
I love it. Yeah. And I'll just go ahead and add a segue of continue to listen to the Living Legacy podcast. Its current season in the 4th season, and we focus on women of purpose sharing stories of resilience. And we also have a few other separate series going on in correlation to the book, which is called Seeing Life Through a Different Lens. So if you understand the correlation between the title, it's kind of like an aha moment now, right? You understand that I was a photographer and I have monocular vision, meaning I only see in one eye, and how we managed to see life more positively. So we also have a few more YouTube series, so definitely continue to follow me everywhere on social media at Illuminist1. Both of our handles are also on this video, and also will be in the show notes of the audio version. Thank you for this wonderful conversation. And I think I want to end it. If no one got anything else from this conversation, what is one thing you want people to know, learn, understand, take away from about retinoblastoma, about life?
You ask difficult questions. I don't know. One thing to take away.
I would definitely say do your research. Do your research. You have the World Wide Web at your fingertips. Like that's different also. So do your research.
I would also say trust your gut. If you feel like something's not right with your child, trust that gut and make sure you look into it, and don't be a helicopter parent.
Important. Yes. So thank you, Abby.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Living Legacy podcast. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and download so you don't miss the next episode. If you want to learn more, you can visit ZaakirahNayar.com. That's ZaakirahNayar.com. Do you have any suggestions on a topic you want to be talked about? Send me an email or leave them in a review. If you love this episode, be sure to share it with your friends.